Right, Mike, this is the point of the podcast where I ask you what else interested you, and I believe you're heading to the Championship.
Yeah, Steve Cooper gave an interesting interview after Swansea's 1-1 draw at Bristol City, which he spoke quite openly. Well, he was biting his tongue for the most part because he didn't want to overstep the mark with how he wanted to talk about Oliver Langford, the referee. Swansea looked comfortable in the game. They went 1-0 up quite early. They were looking like they were going to close out, no problem, and possibly even get a second goal. Bristol City very, very frustrated. And then all of a sudden, a penalty out of nowhere, and I believe that a Swansea player kind of slipped, lost his footing, and then the Bristol City striker, Semenyo, tumbled over him. Bristol City converted the penalty, and it was a 1-1 draw. Now, Cooper afterwards basically spoke about how they prepared for the referee in their game plan, as part of their sort of due diligence ahead of the match. It kind of, I guess it's no surprise that teams are doing this now, but it's the first time I've ever heard a manager go into detail about how much they prepare for a particular referee. And, Oliver Langford, most free kicks in the Championship so far by some distance, most fouls, yellow cards. And basically, they studied him before the game. They studied what type of offences he blows for most often, and all of these kind of things. And they tried to shape the game plan around the referee. They saw him as a troublesome referee in advance and someone who might kind of stand in the way of, what they wanted to achieve on the day in their performance. So they factored him into the game plan. And having kind of tried to play the referee as well as Bristol City for however many minutes, 83 minutes, then to suddenly, out of nowhere, be given this harsh penalty against them, you can only imagine if you put all of that time and effort into trying to accommodate a particular referee, and then you have that done to you, what the level of frustration must be like.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear of managers sitting in the stands. You often see them at games as well, or you hear of them watching video analysis of the opposition and the formations, but you seldom hear them talk about how the referee will influence the game. And it's just really interesting that they picked up on Oliver Langford, because for the most part, you would assume that with such a quick turnaround from the midweek fixtures, clubs just don't have time to assess the man in the middle. But clearly, they decided this was a very important facet of the game this weekend.
Yeah, well, Cooper mentioned that he referenced a televised game recently. He said to reporters, I won't say which game, I won't say where he's reffed lately, but we're well aware of what he's been doing and the way he's been reffing matches. So we thought more than most weeks, we really had to take this into account this week and make it part of our game plan. So, it was very much, it was very unique to hear that being spoken about in such detail in a post-match interview. And Cooper is probably one of the most diplomatic managers around as well. He's very rarely likes to criticise referees. He's very, he comes from St George's Park. He's done his whole education's been with the FA in the England setup, and he's one of the least likely to round upon a referee, but he was clearly very frustrated this weekend.